I had the same situation happen literally at MAPC last week, where all of a sudden another instructor and I are staring at each other like, are you going to
Who
go? Are
says
you going to
something
go? Are
first?
you going to go? But in order to hear that story, you literally have to wait until the very end of the episode or fast forward to like 1 hour and 36 minutes into it, because I'm not lying. The same damn thing happened at MAPC.
Okay, so welcome. It is on air. This is the launch of a new series we're doing
Yes.
called From the Field. It's kind of a, right?
Yeah.
Okay, why'd you look at me like I was wrong?
I'm waiting to see how you're going to describe the chaos that is this.
Okay, what I'm describing, because I have not listened to this episode, but I know everyone involved, so I can imagine the bro shit show that is this episode. But the From the Field series is almost guerrilla style podcasting.
Yeah.
I would say it's like, hey, we're doing the damn thing, and let's turn on the mic and talk about what we're doing. So I wasn't there, but these are dear friends of both of ours, dear friends of the organization, and some really top-notch players in fire service. So tell us a little bit about it, Eric.
Yeah, so this was the day after we concluded our 24-hour straight training. So the class starts at 8 a.m. and ends at 7:30, 8 a.m. the following morning. We keep these guys awake. We bang on them for that entire time to, as they say, break them down so we can build them up to make them the best versions of themselves. It's not a beatdown class, but it's really about mental tools to get through those dark times at 3 and 4 o'clock in the morning. And so this is an episode where some of the cadre running on anywhere from 1 to 3 hours of sleep at this point are really kind of sitting around the coffee table, debriefing, blowing off some steam, and talking about what was the previous day in the previous class and how we've all come together between Rick George, Dave Gillespie, and their training and us at Yoga for First Responders. So it really is a powerful episode, but you have to stick with it through the messy chaos, as Olivia said, the bro shit that went down. So it's messy. It is because it's literally from the field.
And you introduce everyone during the episode, so we don't have to do that now.
Correct.
Speaking of introductions, if this is your first time listening to On Air, then I'm Olivia. Olivia Mead. I'm founder and CEO of Yoga for First Responders. I've got the president of Yoga for First Responders with me, Eric Brenneman. We're also married to each other.
That's right. We're married.
So that's cool. So please enjoy this episode. I'm going to enjoy it because these are some of my favorite folks talking about some of my favorite things. Welcome to Yoga for First Responders On Air, where we break down yoga, neuroscience, resilience, and public safety in a manner that's authentic, educational, and most importantly, entertaining and lighthearted. I'm YFFR's founder, Olivia Mead. As a yoga instructor and neuroscience enthusiast, I'm passionate about supporting first responders and anyone looking to improve their overall human performance. Each week, we'll dive into a new topic and often bring on expert guests to share their insights and experiences. But we'll also keep it real and share our own stories and struggles along the way. So whether you're a first responder or seeking to master the science of mental and physical resilience, this podcast is your ultimate guide to triumph over life's challenges with unbreakable strength and unwavering fortitude. By pressing play, your training has begun.
Y'all want to introduce yourselves on here?
Are we live? Yeah, we will.
We are recording, but I just hit record because we needed to be recording 10 minutes ago. I can always cut shit off, but I can't go back and re-record the event.
Bro, guess you.
I think about that now. Can you fucking imagine being able to go back and have a recording of someone like this? I can viscerally think right now about two firehouse conversations at the kitchen table that I'd pay a lot of money
To go back and get them.
just to be able to relive that conversation just one time.
In what way? Like what?
I'll give you context of one was a chief retiring. He fucking stayed up with us till like 4
Randy.
right? And what up? And
That's awesome.
he shattered some misconceptions. Just like Jimmy is such a great tool for me to help with my moral injury because he gives me the perspective of their side because I'm not
Yeah,
seeing
all right.
one.
Yeah.
When I'm in rogue mode, I'm not seeing one single percent. I've gotten to the point where I just feel so jaded that even if it's valid, I mean, I'm almost irrational at this point because they've shut me down so many times. But that conversation, the way that he said that, it was just what happened.
Phone is calling Rick George, Rick Jorge.
Rick Jorge in the background, everybody.
I love it.
Rick Jorge.
No, I understand what you're saying. I think I was interested to see the angle on it.
Well, I can very simply, if I had the ability to record influential conversations, it would be the conversation that I had with my mom the night she died. Because for 3 months, I'm not going to go into the crazy story that you guys won't believe anyway. Somehow I just had an ominous feeling and tried to walk through a blizzard. My dad wanted to kill us, and I wouldn't go home. And we got there for the first time in almost 2 months, man. Because she had so many opiates, so like her eyes are always cloudy, never like had a real good conversation. And I opened the door, dude, and she's literally sitting up. I haven't seen my mom sit up in months, and she's sitting up, and brown eyes are perfect. And I got to tell her what I didn't know at the time. I didn't realize at the time it was goodbye, but basically, got to tell her I love her. And then 6:23 the next morning, my dad walks in and says she passed away last night. And I don't remember one word of the conversation with her, but I can tell you, it saved me for the rest of my life knowing that I said goodbye. Well, at least she knew how much I loved her because she hadn't heard it in years because you're so sick and the pain pills. Just to have like just a little snippet of that. I will tell you something. So I get one of the craziest things that ever happened to me. I get a phone call last year. And this guy's like, hey, is this Nathan Gardner? I go, yeah. He goes, I have a letter here for you. And I said, yeah. And he goes, it's addressed to Cynthia Reed Gardner. And I'm like, yeah, that's my fuck. I'm not doing this crying shit. That's my mom's name.
You can cry. And it's
Right?
Yeah.
She died 30-some fucking years ago.
I mean,
And I'm like,
about the death of your mother, for God's sake.
I'm with you.
it's a letter from Kathy Reed. It's a letter from my mom to her aunt. Or not her aunt, her sister, I'm sorry. And she basically, in the letter, the guy says, hey, I have this letter, come over, because I'm not processing. The only reason I got the letter is because I used to live at this address, and I guess it came to old mail. But you read the letter, and there's the moment where my mom says, we got the final diagnosis, and there's this moment where she's like, I don't know how to continue to live now, thinking that I'm going to be leaving them alone, and all this stuff that was like so powerful that when I told my brother, he's like, I'm not going to read it. And I said, you got to read it because it's, and I'll tell you, to the depth of, my mom was a school teacher and her cursive was the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. And you could tell her mood, her attitude through her penmanship. And so where you want to double F the feels is when you see her writing get erratic when she says, I can't process leaving them alone. So you just know the moment she's walking through that, and it's like kind of just articulated
Like
that.
a brain map right there in front.
Literally. And that's kind of what I felt when I read it. So, it's just that night, man, just to have like a snippet of, whatever she said or whatever I said to her. Because that was the last one, So
It's invaluable. Literally, you can't put a price on it.
Or just even think, how many times roughly do you think you would like to have conversations just this week recorded?
with who?
All of them. I mean,
Just good conversations that you learned, because I've seen you probably 6 times say, oh my gosh,
Oh, yeah.
that was big.
It was.
Just to have, well,
Everybody's very insightful and perceptive,
Right.
I miss those. I'm like a wall, I don't see that stuff. But he picks up on those things.
Oh, yeah.
To your point.
Yeah, you're very intuitive.
But just for me, and I know you're the same way, but we have, let's say, 10 moments this week that were like, that's a gold nugget. And how many are we going to remember 2 weeks from now?
That's the issue.
Should that not suck?
Yeah, that's a really good way to illustrate that. There's just so many moments. That's fucking true, right? How much of that do we need to download?
Right. You know?
How much can we fucking truly process? And does our brain naturally prioritize those in our consciousness?
Same thing with these kids going through, right? They're not kids, but you're not going to remember everything. We're giving you a hose full. What do you say?
Yeah, we're feeding you through the hose.
Feeding you through the hose. And they're going to pick up on the things that really mean something to them. For whatever reason, it means something.
Sure.
So I think that's kind of like how this all plays out as well.
Well,
Our variety,
what
that's what's so awesome, right?
Oh man,
what
there's
I
nowhere like
what
that.
I hate about that still though, and I get that, but absolutely, I want the stuff that I need now.
Yeah.
But sooner or later, I'm gonna need that other stuff too.
Maybe it's still there. And it's just
And
not
it'll
It's
come
just
back
not the
up.
time.
something causing it to kind of pop back in. And we all have those moments. Oh, yeah, I remember that.
And it's not just a deep
Ooh,
conversation. Let's be
fucking
honest.
deep too.
It's the fun, funny conversations where you just
How many of
know
those
about-
moments do you have? I remember that.
Like,
What, there had to have been a fucking trigger.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
It's
that's
there.
crazy
It's there.
shit too.
It's just there. It's just a matter of
Yeah,
something.
that's like you
pulling from your
saying
data bank and
yesterday.
throwing it in there.
we are where we're supposed to be. So maybe that's deep shit. That maybe that memory doesn't need to come back right now. It's coming back
When
for,
it's-
and then you start thinking, what controls that?
That's
Who
the
controls
for a little bit.
that memory? Come like this. This is deep shit.
And that's why this episode is called From the Field, because these are the conversations that firefighters have when they're solving the world's problems.
By the way, we've been up for like a day and we're pretty raw. And
Yeah. So
this is up there.
so this is so obviously I'm Eric. You all know who I am at this point. I'm sitting with 4 fantastic firefighters from across the country who have served their community. They're part of this cadre that comes together a couple of times a year for this 24-hour training that is a complete mindfuck for everybody from the students to the instructors. But we're here mostly to talk about that training is the Rick George, Dave Gillespie training of developing high performance, developing tactical resilience, developing tactical resilience training. You'll see it at conferences across the country. If you're in the fire service, sign up for it. It's a fucking cool training. Like that's the plug, right?
That was
Like,
everyone's
that's the plug.
person's takeaway is just do it.
Oh,
Right.
I figured with you.
You can't put it to work.
Yeah.
It's just do it.
Right. And so this is obviously the podcast for Yoga for First Responders. And so these guys all got to experience or have experienced our protocol, our goals, our missions throughout the last couple of years. So I've met all of these guys, some of them 2 days ago to 4 years ago, and everywhere in between. You'll hear some familiar voices that have been on the show before, but I want these 4 guys to introduce themselves real quick to you, if that's all right, fellas. Is that cool? You can introduce yourself however the hell you want to. That's pretty informal. They say Tuna, you go first.
Yeah, Nate Gardner, was a fireman for
Be proud of who
19
the
years.
fuck you are, man.
I was a fireman for 19 years. 2 kids, beautiful wife, and
And a voice for radio.
absolutely feel
Face for
that I'm the most fortunate dude in the world because I get to come together with a group of guys that I literally get emotional and cry when I leave to talk classes everywhere, man. Never cry when I say goodbye.
This is
right.
Well, that's something super special about this group of
That's what I'm saying.
men
This is
that
unlike
make
anything
up this,
I've ever
this
experienced.
tribe. It's a group of guys that can be completely vulnerable with each other, that can share their secrets of the world with each other, fully accepted, and yet
no judgment.
no judgment. And actually, when you
Great.
allow that to come
Great
out,
bonds.
the bond gets deeper, it gets stronger, and the amount of wisdom and guidance in this group is unparalleled. Like, this is a special group of people, and it's not by accident. So
And so, you know, dirty secrets of mine that even military brothers and fire service guys I've been with for 20 years don't know and stuff. I mean, you are an eclectic,
And sure you.
And so who is this sexy
Yeah.
voice? And so who is this sexy voice from the corner of the room?
I'm Patrick Armitage. I work. It's next level. It's like getting to hang around with a bunch of NFL Super Bowl coaches as far as the script is. I'm just humbled to be here. Thank you.
Army's a YF. Listen.
Thank you.
Army just. So we're gonna ask Army some questions about this because Army just went through our instructor school. Like Army is one. Oh, no joke. He's one of our newest instructors,
For real.
certified instructors. He got to teach our neuro reset this morning.
And my wife.
And your wife. And so we'll talk about this neuro reset this morning because there's some funny stories about that. We ended this 24-hour training with a neuro
With my
reset,
sweet sounding voice.
and Army's fighting the smoke cough, the cigar cough, if I'm allowed to say that. If not, I'll bleep it
Around
out.
these guys, I do have cigar.
Listen, I'm going to have a cigar this evening too. I normally don't either, but with this group of guys,
We're not here to
it's
judge.
part of the bond. It's part of the bond.
No judgment.
And so he's fighting this cough from the smoke barrels. If you watch our Instagram story, you saw those. And he's got that sweet, leathery voice going.
I was Army, not Marines, by the way.
That's a good thing.
Who said it was Marines? Did I say Marines?
No, I'm just saying as far as gravelly voice.
Oh.
Big dog.
Drill sergeant.
Yeah, I'm not a yeller, guys.
Off to my left, I have Chris, who I literally met like 2 days ago.
Yes. Yes.
Dude,
Same.
Chris Del Campo.
What's up?
I'm
How is this possible?
25 years in the city of Hollywood, Florida. I retired 2 years ago. I'm 52 now.
Oh my god, man.
I got
There's no way my
You're-
two
in.
boys,
Oh, yep.
25 and 22. Sorry.
Roughly 25 and 22 years old.
I got one who's in the Army, and he's an officer in the Army. He's stationed out of Texas. The other one is in the Navy, and he's getting ready to go to Okinawa, Japan for 2-year deployment.
Yeah.
Nice. Very proud of them. Very proud of that. For myself, actually, that give credit to my ex-wife as much as not good mom.
Yeah.
Not a good partner.
She could be a great mom and not have me. Right.
You know what? No,
Yeah.
yeah, she's a great person. Absolutely great person. We raise good kids, and that to me is the most fulfilling thing that I've ever done.
Yeah.
It really is.
You know, I actually heard really, really important things. So, do any of you watch Curb Your Enthusiasm?
Yes, of course.
Okay.
Sure.
So, Susie and the manager. Who's the manager? I don't remember his name. Anyway, the manager is talking on the show, and he's a divorced guy. And he actually said, you know what? I love my wife, but I love her to death. Even after getting a divorce, I love her to death, but I can love her and realize that we are not meant to live together every day.
100%.
So it's kind of that point.
And
You
have
can
friendships
raise
that way,
great
too.
friends, you
You
know?
can have great friends that can have moments where you can really confide, and other moments you're like, oh, go fuck off.
Right. It's the reality of it. Over here, another sexy voice. We'll just go with JS. He's been on a podcast before. You've heard his voice. You know who he is.
Jeremy Sanders. I am from Oklahoma. In July, it'll be 21 years in the fire service. Live near Tulsa with my beautiful wife. We've got 8 kids together and one pretty awesome grandson that we're lucky to have in our house and get to see and play with almost every day. And
Derek, you mentioned that before. You have 8. How? Give me the breakdown.
so, blended family. So you could turn a small family into a gigantic family.
8 pretty damn big.
Overnight. Turns out.
Yeah.
What's the age ranges?
Youngest just turned 13. Oldest, I believe, will be 25. I believe she is 24 right now. So,
Nice, right.
my wife has 4 biological. I have 2 biological. And the 8 is, I will admit, the 8 is a little bit skewed. It's not legal. I came into the relationship with 2 biological and 2 fosters.
Oh, really?
That I'm proud to say I was a single dad of 4 kids for quite a while, 2 of them fosters. But we adopted the younger one. The older brother thankfully got adopted by a family that we we are close with, and so we still have communication, and we still get to see him a lot. And so I'm not going to include, or I'm not going to disclude him from our family.
100%.
So,
Well, that's like really cool, unique. I think I've never even heard that.
so we don't have
Yeah.
any biological kids together, but she adopted myself, and her adopted, our youngest, obviously, who was a foster, but she has also adopted my 2 biological. So
How about fostering? How did you get into the whole fostering thing, if I could ask?
it found me, man.
Yeah.
Well, I'll say this. I have to say this. It found us. It was basically through my ex-wife. She was working with the older foster son at the time, was special needs. He needed a helper at school,
Mhm.
and that's what she was doing. And
That's okay.
I mean, there's literally no way to explain. The story.
I would say
No,
it's such
and not that I don't want to, but it's just
No, but
it's
like-
God playing the role of this is what needs to happen. There's no other way.
It's
Amazing.
It's
Amazing. Yeah.
You're the most unique family setting that I've ever heard.
Oh well,
For me.
you'll get to know I'm the most unique of anything. I don't do anything normal.
Just ask them.
Yeah, so we're all running on about 1.5, maybe up to 4 hours of sleep over the last, at this point, 30 hours or so, because we just came off this 24-hour training, which is a unique training in the fire service world. There's only, a couple other that we know of? They're out there running.
and they're just more of a beat down version. It is nothing compared as far as our resiliency mental game.
Yeah, and
Okay,
so
can I add to that?
Yeah.
Please.
So you say 24 hours.
Yeah.
No big deal, because we've all been up 24 hours.
Sure.
It's a different 24 hours.
Right.
Because there's a physical, and then we have that mental
right.
drain. So it's more like a 3-day continue. It feels to me. And I've done
Because of the
24,
emotional
I've done 48,
drain, yeah.
I've been up, but collectively, right?
Because when I leave there, I'm not kidding you. I still don't know how to say it. Do you know how to say it? An enemy?
Oh,
Anami?
Anomaly.
Anomie. Anami?
Yeah.
I don't know.
So physically
Edamame,
drained.
yeah.
Like you've lost everything.
It feels like so much more.
Bro, you just everything.
Yes.
Like when I leave there, I mean it starts right off the rip. I mean you I'm so fucking proud of you.
Thank you.
The first time, dude, when I get emotional about it because it takes a lot of fortitude, man. Because especially guys like us in our age, we came up in a different fucking fire service than now.
100%.
I was literally told, find a fucking box, melt the fucking key, the whole bullshit. And even as a probie, 22, 23 years ago, I was like, that does not sound like that's going to work. But that's how we came up, right? So I never knew, just you can go to shift and fly through a shift,
Yeah.
right? No problem. I leave there. I don't even know how to describe it. It's like my soul has left me because we take in theirs, we pour it out, and it's like this back and forth, and that's without any of the freaking adversity of the conference. No stress. That is not even talking about the nervousness, right? About me delivering a lecture in front of a guy who literally, I'm fucking alive because of him.
Yeah.
And the fact that because of this program, man, this is what kept me from blowing my head off because I had something positive. And Rick, in that moment, was like, he's got a couple choices here. He might be a wild card or whatever down the road, but if I don't give him this to have one thing, because my biggest problem was the loss of the fire service it was unfathomable. I couldn't, he started me out every 2 weeks, pull my bunker gear down out of the attic and hold it like a fucking child and cry. Because I never had any values or anything early. The fire department gave it to me. It was my persona. That's what it is. It was my identity.
That was who you were.
And I lost it.
So now at this point, have you moved past that?
Oh,
Otherwise, that was just
dude.
now it's
gone.
just a job. But
No, yep.
I'm
I'm a-
more than just that.
I'm a husband and I'm a dad, bro. That's
Those are important important things in life, right?
Other
That's-
than this shit, I finally got over the need to tell people I'm a fireman. My insecurities, I would figure out a way, whether you ask me or not, what I do for work. I was going to put it in there because it was a sense of pride. So that was a good moment until you shit your fucking pants.
I really hope that picked that up because this is firehouse. This is reality. This is
Absolutely.
this is from the field. Remember, and so we just I hope that at some point we have 2 new guests joining us. We have the Rick George and Dave Gillespie who wandered in and shit their pants on the way. But you'll have to decide which one did that.
The old man.
So you got a purposeful and an accidental.
But this is actually a really important conversation and something that I talk a lot about. And Jeremy, we've talked about it too, is the identity piece of it. Because there's a problem when we identify solely as firefighters.
Yeah.
The thing
The
you
thing
do
you do.
for work.
Because whether we like it or not, and I heard this somebody describe this really, really well, you cannot identify as a station in life. And your career is a station in life. And so,
real quick before
Yeah.
you move on, I want to. I've heard it even better described.
yeah,
Never put your identity into something that can be taken away.
as simple as that, right?
Hey, can
Say that
I please
again?
say something?
Yeah.
Never
I
put
joined the
your
military.
identity into something that can be taken away.
Yeah, go for
I
it.
joined the Army at 18 and got to go back to the 82nd Airborne Division.
I don't
Got to do all sorts of cool stuff. And I absolutely developed an identity with that. Got hurt, got medically discharged. I struggled with that as a 22-year-old male,
Yeah,
full of testosterone, and ready to take on the world. And now you can't jump out of airplanes and shoot big guns.
and that like shook you to the
Good,
core, I
yeah,
bet,
yeah.
right?
Is that not the antithesis of most service-oriented people
Yeah,
when they
right.
come out? They don't have that purpose anymore. They don't have.
And it's with military, it's with public safety. I mean, it's so often in these, like you said, people of service, those service-giving careers. And it's a slippery slope and it's very, very dangerous because I say this all the time. You are all, everybody listening to this show and everybody in this room, you are more than a firefighter. You're more than your Army career. You're more than the 82nd Airborne. Like, I know how much that means to you, and that's an amazing story. And to this day, you are still more than all of that. Like, you're fucking cool, man. Like, you are Patrick Armitage, and we love you, man. Like, own it, embrace it, you know?
Because you know, I grow.
Right. Like, it's,
My identity, my character changes.
yeah, no, and that's why this is an important group of people, quite frankly, as far as friends, brothers, colleagues, mentors to each other on a daily basis. So with this training, a big part of it is yoga.
Eric, can I say something real quick? So
Go for it.
we have the identity loss, right? We don't have to do it on here, but I want to show you guys a video that killed me. It was about this woman saying that women need love, men need respect, right? I went from having potentially anywhere from like 10 to like 30 guys, pipe hitting dudes, hang on every word in a life or death situation. Did I just say pipe hitting? That's a bad deal?
No.
No, he shit his
Oh,
pants
shit himself again?
Yeah.
Apparently, it's every time.
Wait until it's something when I'm crying and then shit your pants. So it's really fucking funny. And now now I'm chewing on it. You smell this shit?
And it's bad. It is like
Jesus
room.
Christ, dude.
It immediately filled the room.
I wonder what happened if
tired of it.
if some guy fucking photobombed the Rick George podcast and shit himself out. Even
for that.
think somebody get fucking
That's the
unconscious.
thumbnail.
Yeah, we're not filming this one, but we're gonna add a whole bunch of still photos because this shit's getting ridiculous. So. There's the post shit your pants photo. So so women need love, men need respect, and then we shit ourselves.
So the point is that what I was missing was a feeling of lack of respect. My wife, we're even, right? And not that command, deserves respect, but I worked so freaking hard on my whole career to put myself in an environment where the guys did respect me. So when you have that, and then every single day it's like, yeah, I'm literally home washing the dishes. I'm a housewife now. I'm a dad, but I'm a housewife. So I went from having what I thought were purposeful, task-driven, things where I can't put the same importance on doing the laundry.
No.
So when you guys watch this, I have not shown it to a dude that is like in like me and Army situation where we lost something that it was fucking everything. And I thought I was going to end my career as a chief, spitting my freaking emotional venom down the line and trying to corrupt all the captains to be good emotional officers. And then it was gone in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
So, all right.
Yeah. No, and that's identity. I mean, identity is something that I'm very passionate about. So it's right on topic. The other piece, so yoga is a 4-letter word. We do say it. Y'all have embraced it, which I love.
Yes.
You actually were just kind of shown I'm pointing at Chris over here. Chris was just kind of had his first introduction to how we teach yoga.
Yeah.
Army's a trained instructor of ours now. Jeremy's been around it. Rick and Dave are obviously big proponents of it because they've invited us into their training. Tuna's I'd say proponent. You and I have some deep conversation about what we do. And it's kind of fun to watch this shit happen real time because these hard charging dudes come in.
Yeah.
They say last night in the middle of partway through a debrief, like I thought I signed up for this hard charging class and I'm here fucking doing yoga. And it's not quite what they thought they had signed
And
up.
opening myself up emotionally, where that was never. I think none of those guys came in there expecting to open up an emotional aspect of themselves.
Yeah.
Where it was like, just firefighters tactics and straightens, you
Yeah.
can segment that off, but it became more of a personalized approach to how they do things.
The challenge was expected, but how they were going to be challenged,
Was
they had no
unexpected.
freedom.
Yeah. And so I want to dive into the
So here,
YFFR element of it, a little bit. And so, Army, you're a new instructor. You got to teach at this this class. You got to put the capstone on the class today
yeah,
by teaching Neuro Reset this morning, and you got to do what we call our Iron Heart Neuro Reset, which is really, if you listen to the words of it, a powerful guided meditation, guided.
yeah, you're not alone, right?
You're not alone. So how'd the words hit you when you're reading them, and then we'll make fun of you because you were choking on your
Yeah,
own
right.
voice. So
Put it up all night, all that kind of stuff. It was pretty cathartic, and it's almost like reading a psalm or something. If you want to go apart, religion or whatever, it's, as you say, it's almost a melodic, soothing, monosyllable. I'm not even sure, to convey this, but it's a nice capstone.
well, and as you were doing that, like we were making fun of you a little bit because you were choking on the smoke of the barrels and cigars and everything else. And then Jeremy's over here talking about how he was on the ground and Tuna damn near steps on his fucking head, which would have fucking killed it. And like, let's hear.
Didn't even know it.
We didn't even know.
Skull. I'm
Tuna-
today. My judgment.
Duly noted.
Ba-boom! Ba-boom! But so how did you were introduced to YFR because of this training probably?
Yeah. So I absolutely took this class at the Mile High Fire Conference, I think it's 18. And then started coming around with guys in Atlanta.
2018.
Yeah. And I was kind of one of the same guys like yoga, whatever, and all that stuff. But first taking the class, like, this mental resiliency and opening up academically and all that was kind of mind bending and open to me. And then it was reinforced through the breath work, through being not stoic, but still.
Yeah.
Yeah, strength and stillness. That was one of the biggest things I actually took away from the instructor school was we concentrated on not worrying about distractions, being still in the moment. Whereas in the military, you got your wrecking ball. Violence and action is encouraged and rewarded. The whole 9 yards, just top out. And you showed me a complete flip side to that. There's a whole strength in being subtle.
Mm.
Do you think that could be applied to the military?
Absolutely. And the good leaders are starting.
Good balance.
They're starting to pick that up. Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's Mark Divine that says a warrior must be skilled in both action and non-action.
And
Awesome.
Right?
Yeah, we started talking about Grossman. right?
Yeah.
Criminal justice. It absolutely applies, and I hope that the military and the first responder service, cops, fire, EMS, or whatever, starts adapting this early,
Mhm.
because it's a game changer. We're strengthening.
What
Yeah.
do you think it is globally? What do you think we are as a agency, fire related, with this tactical resilience?
Mhm.
I mean, I think it's a fairly new concept. I think there's early adapters to a lot of things, and then there's the hold offs, and those usually are the older, salty guys who just get in there, do your job, shut the fuck up, and go home. I think we're 2024.
Yeah.
I think we're we're about 30-40% there, in my opinion. I don't know what you guys think.
Which is a lot better. I mean, like, we've been around since 2016 officially, and think about how far that conversation has come in 8 years.
It only takes one person at an agency who has the power to make that choice.
Right.
One person to go, you know what? This is the concept, an idea, a way of being. I want to introduce it to once the introduction is done. So it just takes one person to plant that seed.
I could say when I took this class in 2018, I was in the fire service in 2001. Actually, was hired on before I graduated in September. But I told Rick when I took his class, I said my first 10 years of the fire service has been weapons of mass destruction, anti-terrorism. That was the flavor of the decade. Everyone was hot and heavy on it. Went out to New Mexico, Anniston, Alabama, did some cool stuff.
Yeah.
The next 10 years was H-Rock, high-rise stuff, right?
Yep.
Isaacson, Keeper Grail out of Denver, all that kind of stuff. That hot and heavy stuff. I took Rick's class. I was like, holy shit, if I may say. I said,
You
you
may.
have the next decade
Back to encourage.
flavor, interest. You're just starting to, like the flower, just starting to bud. I'm like,
Yeah.
you are the untapped territory.
You knew it. It was
I immediately
beginnings
recognized
of
through the
something.
self, going through the class and the realization and,
Experience.
epiphany of what was going on with here. I was like, can I pull a clipboard? You're like a new quarterback in an NFL team.
Carry
What can
your
I do?
bags.
Yes. I will sweep
Water
floors,
boy.
whatever. I recognize what's going on here and I'm interested.
Yeah.
I want in.
That's
Well, and you bring up like the old salty guys, and
Yes.
let's be honest. Like, I hope he takes this as a compliment because he's sitting in the other room shitting himself as he eats Mexican food,
this animal over here.
threatening me with the knife.
This animal.
But if you've ever seen Rick George, and if you haven't seen Rick George, literally Google search Rick George firefighter, and you will pull up images of your epitome of the salty fireman. Let's be honest. Like, let's be real. And so, but he and Dave and Bob Carpenter and those guys that wrote that book, I mean, hell, that book's been out for a decade or better at this point. So for-
It doesn't. It takes about
Only
10
5
for
years?
something to catch on.
it's only been 5 years.
Yep.
I'm
Yes,
getting
when we actually went to the publisher, they said no. They wanted us to write something on PTSD, and we refused.
that's the voice. That's the sexy voice for radio, Dave Gillespie. Folks.
Anything from north of
Anything that you get the A's and the O's and the A. that's gonna be our friend from the north. His nickname is Casper. However, I have a little bit of a beef to pick with Army. I mean, if we're gonna bring up the nickname Casper from the Great White North, the Army lives in fucking Florida,
Yeah.
and there was a joke that was stated earlier, like, "Hey, my grandma needs her legs back." Is that what the joke
Thank
was?
you, Wes Usher, one of my chiefs in Southall.
My grandma needs
And
her
I
legs back.
appreciate a good burn. Yeah, it was true.
Because Army he's pale as they come, man. He's fair skinned
Yeah,
as
what?
fair skinned as hell.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, right.
There's a very drastic
And I love wearing like my socks all the way up, like compression socks. I got the whole
contrast.
nursing home, 70-year-old guy building.
Vertigo's vague, man. Don't pop one like that.
Yeah,
So-
so I got varicose vein. It looks like fucking something on my bicep.
We convinced them to join us, so we did get 2 new podcast guests to the episode. This episode we're calling it From the Field. The goal here was to take some conversations from the field of getting together because of, quite frankly, your guys' training, and then how we as YFFR have been kind of adjacent to and a part of. would you guys mind introducing yourself since you've joined the chat room, as they say?
Yeah, my name is Dave Gillespie.
And I'm Rick George. Hey.
Well, you kind of look alike.
Very similar.
Lack of mustache.
I got the brains. Let's leave it.
This is left brain, right brain. We'll get into that, I'm sure.
Oh my
Oh,
God,
man.
that was hysterical. That was freaking great.
So, Tuna, you're not a trained YFR instructor. We've had a lot of conversations about this, and you are an advocate. You're not just an advocate. I'd say you're a proponent of what we do. And your mind has been blown. He's fallen asleep over here, so I got to bring him back into the conversation. If you can see him now, he's fallen asleep.
I'm not.
So, what were your thoughts? Like, when did we meet you? What was it? Was it probably Massey 2 or 3 years ago at this
3
point?
years ago.
3 years ago. And
Yeah,
so all of a sudden, this bearded guy shows up teaching yoga.
So I heard all this bullshit. It was, you're not gonna fucking believe this shit. I'm like, yeah, that's cool, man. We've had all kinds of people, Tai Chi people, come through and pitch all this stuff that
You can swear.
and they
We
attach
put the
it
E on
to.
the podcast for a reason.
There's a cheapness to it because they're targeting this perceived PTSD in us. So they're selling the Tai Chi will get rid of the stress and this and the other thing. Well, you get into it and it's like, for me, it wasn't relatable. I'm not that peaceful guy. When I went to Thailand to fight and they went to bless us, I had to get out of there. And it was a harmonic, cool feeling, but it's just not my style. So you guys come in immediately, I'm gonna blow you right now, but there's something about you that carries this weight to it. And there's this ability for you to convey thoughts in a way it's unique, man. And there's an ambiance about you that just kind of draws you in, right? So right off the bat, I'm like, all right. So it's not, this guy seems like he's stout and he's a fucking fireman, right? So that was a big thing for me. I always see some Indian dude freaking, smoking in the background. So I've been conditioned to think that
Of
way.
course, we all have them.
And my chiefs and everything, we've had guys
Yep.
that were into it and they bring it in and from the chief level down, pussy, and it's like, so it was just, even if I wanted to try it, it wouldn't be in public,
Right.
or anywhere in the fire service, right? So here you guys come rolling in, and your initial message. And first off, I was in a very hyper aware state just because the introductions. I'd never experienced anything like that before, right? So I'm in a very vulnerable state to begin with, and I'm like, all right, man, I should start looking inward a little bit. The fact that these guys were able to do this, never met each other. And actually, what set the tone is me and Mark, right? We talked about this frequency shit. I'm on his frequency. I don't know any other way to explain it. We were sharing shit in fucking 10 minutes and crying our eyes out at 15. That set the tone for me to be like, this day right here, God's telling you right now, the fucking top's open. Suck every bit of this in. And I was like, all right, cool. So I'm in this mindset of like, today's going to be crazy. But again, I have this underlying massive stress of letting him down, right? So I had
Rick?
Rick, right? And I'm not going to go into the whole story, but the guy saved my life, right? So he's very important to me. This program is what he hung out in front of me, keep me from blowing my brains out, right? So now I'm a part of it,
Yeah.
which was massive. Been looking forward to it for 2 years, right? So I'm definitely in a state where I'm receptive. And then you made it relatable.
Boom.
The second challenger threat came in. That was a done deal. I didn't give a fuck what happened after that. Because in one goddamn second, you literally reframe my universe. That any fucking thing that comes down the pipe, you can literally split life up into 2 fucking categories. It's that simplistic.
It's that easy.
You said
Your vantage-
relatable, but you were vulnerable. You wanted something.
No. What anything else, I don't care. So when they freaking and
Listening to this podcast just
Yeah. Yeah.
Welcome back to this episode, everybody.
well, I'm telling you, that I played sports my whole life. I you come and go like, hey, how are you? That is right now. I jumped because I'm not expecting you to bark out, and you come from this. I'm not saying, listen, you want to say that I'll stomp fucking somebody's skull because I'm fat? You're not somebody. I'm not talking about you. You put that on your own. Listen,
Put that on yourself.
but the reality is, you were not Rick George, right?
I am not Rick
You're
George.
not somebody
I am not
who
Rick
I would
George.
go, that voice is coming out of that motherfucker right there, right? And you have these guys in this compromising pose, and probably for a lot of these guys, first time they've ever done it, right?
Yeah.
Done the fucking introductions. They're in a crazy vulnerable state, and I'm watching their faces. And the second, this is Rick George, and I was overdoing my shit about face, and I didn't give a fuck. Like my station wasn't good because I was like, what the fuck? What kind of yoga is this shit? I'm like, this is like MMA yoga. I want to do this now.
BJJ.
Yeah. I mean, BJJ is like one of my biggest passions. And there, it was like BJJ, and like you literally strangled my fucking mind. And I was like, and the threat challenge in that moment, it wasn't just watching you guys. It was literally me going, man, if that doesn't define the victim mindset, right? That's it. Everything's a threat. It's because no, it's just a fucking challenge, bro. This is about another chance for me to freaking get harder to kill and better dad, better whatever. Everything's an opportunity.
You
And that was in that fucking moment, dude.
You said better dad. How much has this impacted your outside the department life?
So I've never been in the department since I started this.
So it's
This
Almost
is
personal at this
this
point.
is
outside.
this is why I get choked up about this, man.
I'm saying
I didn't dilute it with the fire shit.
exactly.
This is 100% my transformational process. And that's why it is so effing
And I
impactful.
think that's key. You don't have to be a firefighter to have great take.
Well, no.
I will even say that I don't even associate any of this with my job.
Yeah.
When I am trying to learn this and absorb this and anything else we're doing, I don't even have the fire department
I'm right there with
in
you.
my head.
I'm right there with you.
It's just
How can I apply this to my
Person.
daily,
Yeah.
what, outside my life?
Yeah.
Right? Outside. But which has great implication on the job, but the outside implication I think is even maybe greater.
Yeah, it's
absolutely.
it's that ripple effect, and we hear oftentimes that like this using these tools that we're teaching, that Rick and Dave are teaching, helps us be better husbands, wives, dads, moms, whatever it is. Because now I'm not yelling at my wife, I'm not coming home disconnected after shift. I can find tools that can allow me to reintegrate, quite frankly, with my family faster and easier. And you actually mentioned it's like
BJJ.
MMA or BJJ yoga. And so I was actually teaching literally a week and a half ago or so in Tucson for the National Park Service. And I'm teaching the leadership of the National Park Service. So these are the chiefs of the national parks. So they oversee the park rangers, so law enforcement. And leadership comes in the room the second half of the week. Like normally they're sitting back in their chairs, arms are crossed, like, fuck this isn't for us, whatever. And so I do my song and dance and bring them in and pull them forward in their seats throughout the lecture portion of our class.
Slowly
And-
integrating them.
Right. And then all of a sudden, this one chief at the end, he raises his hand and he's like, you guys are teaching this yoga stuff like a martial art. And I said, with all due respect, sir, yoga actually is a martial art. It originally was a warrior training in India. It's lost that connection because of the branding and marketing in
Yeah.
the West. But yoga actually is a martial art. And so we have the lineage, just like BJJ and everything else. And so our ground fighters typically fall in line and understand what we're doing really, really quickly
Like a
because like that guy.
Yeah, your guy today.
So it's fascinating that you made that connection, honestly, because that's the second time in 2 weeks that connection has been. We make it, but it's now people are starting to pick up on it the way we're
He was
teaching.
a top performer.
So yes, we.
Dante.
Yeah.
If I could say, so we did, one of our drills was the Mogadishu mile, where we carried a skid with 165 pound of sandbags for about a mile. His heart rate never got over 120s. And to add on to that, through the Mogadishu mile, we stopped and we had a big old power line road with, I'll say like an 80% gradient.
It was a steep hill.
And it's like a good half mile. And we ran their ass up that. At the top of the hill, his heart rate was in the 120s.
Yeah.
Everyone else was like thumping.
And I bet if we had watched him and how he breathes throughout that.
Well, he was the one
Yeah.
Rick mentioned right off the bat,
Yeah,
you're breathing through your nose.
100%.
Like
Well, you
before
picked up
we
on
even
it.
started. Yeah.
So I'm curious because I actually have never heard this story. Full disclosure, fellas, I've never heard the origin story about how Rick and Olivia, the founder of YFR, met. Like, how did y'all's paths cross to even allow this shit to happen?
Happened in Georgia. Interestingly enough, so I wouldn't have even listened if my introduction to yoga was Hatha yoga.
Yep.
And I was training for the Pan American Games for Brazilian Jiu Jitsu in 2000 and 2001. And 2000, 2001, and 2002. And my instructor told me, you got to take a yoga class. I'm like, okay, why? You know, and he's like, your hips, you got to strengthen your hips. Jiu-jitsu is all hips,
Yeah.
you know. And so I started, we would fight for like 3 hours in the morning. I'd go to the gym and I'd train for an hour in the gym. And in the gym, there was a yoga class and it all just worked out perfect. I'd go into the yoga class for an hour and a half. And these, I would just get my ass kicked. It was, I started with the blocks and the straps and all that and gradually started getting better and better. The interesting part, what I didn't like was that it smooths your body, right? When you lift weights, you get blocky.
Which again,
You know?
look up Rick George on the internet, folks.
And so it smoothed my body and it was just a lot of dynamics had changed. And that yoga was instrumental in making my jiu-jitsu stronger.
Hell yeah.
So that was my introduction to yoga. So you need to know that. And then one day I'm in Atlanta and I think it's after a Metro Atlanta firefighter conference. And I get a phone, it was a message or something on Facebook. I said, let's talk. It was yoga for first responders. I was interested because it was for first responders.
Yeah.
So I think it was in the explanation. I think it was through Facebook. It might have been Facebook Messenger. She explained to me everything that we were doing in our class, but not even knowing our
Right.
class.
Yeah.
She's saying, I'm so excited because you guys are doing what we're doing with YFFR.
Yeah.
And so I said, let's talk. And so we talked on the phone and that quick conversation lasted over an hour. And I knew right then this was going to be a good fit because what yoga did for my jiu-jitsu, yoga would do for firefighters through body positioning and breathing and the ability to be able to prepare yourself without actually being put into uncomfortable positions and learning how to breathe in a controlled environment.
Right.
You know, and to me, it was a no-brainer. And the things that she was saying, I knew what she was saying. She knew what I was saying.
Right.
And so it was just, it worked out. The integration of it all was awkward in the beginning and gradually grew into what it is now.
Yeah.
It's still evolving.
It's still evolving, but I'd say like right now we're pretty well hand in glove
Oh, yeah.
at this point. Not even hand in hand, but hand in glove. Like YFR and you guys with this training work very well together. Like,
That's how I explain it. You guys shake hands.
yeah.
Earlier today, you and I had a conversation where you used the term being welcomed into the family. And what really struck me about it was I had started the conversation about how much YFFR has contributed to the program. And then as you flipped it back to me and said, well, you welcomed us into the family, you're absolutely right. Because what we found is that not that we have any identifying roles in this family, but we have a synergy that is now growing much larger than the sum of our two missions.
Right.
And we have individuals who are coming in to these courses. It's almost like a primed audience because they already have an interest in developing themselves, both mentally, physically because of the job. Many of the people that we get, regardless if they're like a Dante who's late 20s or a Jess who is a battalion chief in his 50s, they are all still keen on being a student of life.
Yes.
So from these gentlemen and ladies who've come forward, they're already in a prime spot to receive this new information. They're all seeking to be the stronger next best version of themselves. So frankly, the family concept, I think, is every time we run one of these conferences, and
It just gels, right?
you're part of it. Yeah, it gels, and now there's another 20 more seedlings going out there to
Right.
germinate and throw the idea around when they're in the gym doing their stretches, and somebody says, "What the fuck is that?"
Right.
Yeah, well, actually, buddy, I am working at a whole other level.
Yeah, right.
And it was fun to watch this training because we were at the training ground at Cobb County Training Grounds, I guess,
Yep.
right? And so we get kind of portioned off into the burn building, 3-story, 4-story burn building. There's some other, I always equate it to like either the salty guys or the class that guys want to sign up for because they're hands-on training.
Sexy class.
They're the sexy
Yeah.
fucking classes, right?
Yeah.
The instructors' names are the names that everybody knows in the fire service and things like that. And so that's what people sign up for. And so we're doing this class, which everybody had the opportunity to read and they didn't sign up for it. So number one, they weren't willing to sign up for a 24-hour course. We'll just leave that there, fellas. Challenge issued. Number two, but they think they're in the badass class because of their instructors and that kind of stuff. And so they're walking in, they're, bunker pants on, suspenders on, lid on, no jacket. Like, I'm fucking cool, And so then they look over and we've got guys literally doing mountain pose with their hands in the air. And you can see them looking on their faces like, what the fuck are those guys doing? Like, what in the, what
It's
in
more
the
like,
fuck are
look
they
at
doing?
these fucking assholes.
Right? Like, look at those clowns over there doing this
I
yoga
literally
shit.
saw a couple guys not pointing, but it was obvious they were talking about it.
Yeah, they just
Just
stare
yeah,
all the way
to start with. Exactly
You
right.
said it great last night. Let's be weird.
And so this is kind of a new concept that we're taking in.
That's a fucking Portland thing. I really don't.
You're a little older man. You had enough time.
It is a
Fucking weird.
Portland is real weird. But let's be real. I think it was a firefighter craftsmanship conference. It was in Portland before COVID.
No, it was in Denver.
No, who was in Portland? Who ran the conference in Portland 2020?
Firemanship.
That was
Firemanship.
That's Cody Trust.
There you go. So firemanship was in Portland in 2020.
Yeah.
And we ran this class up there. And let's be honest, boys, the training ground that we got put up there was fucking scary and creepy as shit.
Perfect. Never been a more perfect fireman.
Dude,
That was an
like,
amazing.
So they put us
wish
up.
it could have been-
They put us up in in an insane asylum that's been abandoned. No joke. We are in an insane asylum that's been abandoned, and you walk in and there's still fucking gurneys in the room, fucking weird ass paintings on the wall, graffiti everywhere because
Energy, right?
and then you go into the basement of this place, and there's like this boiler room with like an interrogation chair in the middle of it. Like this is where we get to run this class.
Dirt
Like,
floor, wheelchair, like silence
No.
of the lambs. kind of
and then like in the middle of the night, we hear rumors that this place is haunted. And so we're
I'm
right.
sure
So
there's some
yes,
bad
and
mojo.
so we're like running this class, and then no joke. I mean, in the middle of the night, all of a sudden, in the abandoned part of this mental institution, on the 3rd or 4th floor, a fucking light turns on in one of the rooms.
Oh,
And we're like, the fuck is that? Like, what are we doing? What are we doing here?
Intercom speakers were buzzing and stuff too. Yeah, it was just pretty
Dude.
weird. And those ravens or crows.
Right?
Good
Those
lord.
are the biggest freaking crows I've ever. They were 3 feet tall. They were
Like,
So I have to give you
Sure.
credit. One of the things that makes when you say "let's be weird," I belong to a gym up in Canada, and when I walk by the yoga class, it's always on a padded floor, and there's always individuals who have their towel and their water bottle sitting beside them, and their spray mist and their whatever. I've never done that with YFFR. I've been in parking lots. I've been in basement of insane asylums. Some of it. Well, it's not just shoveling snow, pushing
1% of you
pushing
guys.
cows. No, but seriously, you even look at, we were in, you called it when we were at Cobb County, there was gunfire from the shooting range down the street. And you were saying, so we scheduled this gunfire from local law enforcement practicing to give you one more layer of stress as you show how to control it.
I think that integrate that.
but it's true though.
Like,
But it's true though. Like,
but
if we
have we seen YFFR in a standard environment?
yes, right. And so everybody thinks like you need this calm, serene environment to practice yoga and
I
meditation and
thought
shit.
that too.
That's bullshit.
No,
Because when
I'm like, this is bullshit. All this shit going on.
Right.
That's I'm like,
Mhm.
this is not ideal.
No.
But you brought it home to me
Oh, yeah.
Right.
and made it because of all that. Actually, made it better.
yeah,
Yeah, and it was.
The
Yeah.
ventilation
Why
class
was it-
going on a couple years ago.
So much fun.
Yoga during the ventilation class.
oh my god, yeah.
Wow.
Just K-12
Stop.
singing
Yeah,
some
right.
other people.
But that's when we need to regulate, folks. Like that's
That's
the
beautiful.
moment
That's
that
the way
we
to do it,
need
yeah.
to down regulate,
So-
like, put ourselves in a regulated state. Yeah, and so it's just so
Well framed.
Portland is that was an amazing
So
spot.
let's rewind a little bit.
Yeah.
So they went from going, look at these guys.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So then
They
this
take
is
much
and,
time either.
and this is where we're going. So in the first class, as Tuna alluded to with the challenger threat thing, this comes down to our protocol of like cognitive declarations. There's a lot of science behind why we need to ingrain the fact that things that we encounter in life, stress, are challenges and not threats. And so I am running this yoga class and I have them in a plank position, aka push-up position. And I have coached them through this. And so I say, this is a challenge or a threat. And now I have 19 dudes all yelling out, challenge, to the point where it echoes over the gun range,
It becomes more powerful.
where it overpowers the smoke coming in from the cool badass class. And all of a sudden, everybody who's in the other classes looks over like, what the fuck? Like,
Yes.
what is that? And they're still doing yoga? And so the looks come back, but they're changed. And so then they're starting to pay attention to what we're doing rather than making fun of what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so then as the day progresses, no joke, I literally had cadre instructors from the other training groups that were there come over and say, hey, that's a cool class. We should probably need to be doing yoga. I have the students interacting with some of you guys that on the grounds, asking what we're up to and what we're doing and pointing out that we should probably be doing that stuff.
So in all honesty, they look at our instructor cadre and they're like, these guys are doing yoga? You know, I mean, they look at freaking Tuna, Army.
What about me?
Don't
say
They look at
Chris, what's your money?
it's, I think it has the same psychological effect as our introductions does.
Yeah.
Right? You have the stature of these type A personalities, these salty dudes.
Outwardly looking.
Yeah, outwardly, thank you. And their the vulnerability and transparency that's being done, I think it has the same psychological effect with just being around it. And this is a large part of our class.
Right.
So they've got to look at it because these guys are not dummies.
No.
You know, and they're looking at it and they're going, maybe these guys are onto something. It shifted.
Right.
It shifted and it shifts quick.
It did.
When you have leaders outwardly who look a certain way doing something that inwardly you look like you would be doing, right?
I'm the crunchy granola guy. It's fine.
That's what I'm
Your
trying to
granola tree hugger, you know.
And
right?
yet I'm still not the expected.
Exactly.
Because when I show up at the conferences and I'm like, wait a minute,
It's just the opposite.
this
Yeah.
6-foot
So it's not.
bearded guy's teaching us yoga instead of the tall, skinny white girl that we expected was going to be teaching
Yeah.
yoga.
The one that's being advertised.
So you got the salty looking
This is the fucking guy they send us instead of the redhead.
You bring up an interesting point. So I got twice yesterday. Like Tuna has said it, like you would never expect, like you can like just like whip these guys into shape. Like these are salty ass firefighters, and all of a sudden like you step in the room and you like pull them in. Like where the fuck does that come from? And so
I've said this to you before, and absolutely I mean it. You command respect. And you know, we can be imposing in stature or voice or whatever. You have a calm confidence and a message that conveys to everyone. And you're there, man. You get them. Whether alpha males to, you know, people who want to hide out. All of a sudden, it's realizations from top to bottom.
yeah, no, I appreciate it.
I think there is, you go through your Rolodex, and we've all served under those guys. They're very calm, that deliver like that. And the minute that the shit's going down, when they take command, they take control.
Yeah.
And so I think there is some kind of transference there too.
Yeah, no, I appreciate
At
it.
least
And
in our
that's-
We're missing the boat here with this because it's not you out there on the yoga grounds. When you talk, everything that you say is articulated in a fashion that I could never. Like you're a wordsmith in a way you can break fucking neurosurgery down to dump trucks and oranges. So you have an ability.
That was last year.
The fucking point is that you have an ability to convey a topic that I had no. It's not fucking relatable to me, but you somehow do it, and you do it through like this crazy blend of just being a real fucking dude, which is when you start getting sciencey. When you add that real dude element, it for me it validates it because it's like, all right, well, this is real. This guy's not fucking fruity into this and is not seeing the outside fucking world. You're injecting that shit with real life stuff.
Real life. That's right.
And that's what's important for me. Mm-hmm. And then I listen to you talk. Knowledge is fucking power, man. And when the other night with Rick out here, off the cuff, alpha, theta, fucking, and he dives into this neurochemistry, and you're like, where the fuck does that come from? But what it comes from is knowing that your passion for this drove you to educate yourself to the point where you cannot be wrong about this stuff in the sense of how you deliver it. That is where the fucking power is, man.
But
that's where you command respect from me, is I know with every fiber of your being what you're telling me is true.
just like you, it started from necessity.
Mm-hmm.
If I wanted to survive, I needed to do something.
Right.
Because I was familiar with the taste of gun oil.
That's why I mean it's so
Yeah.
genuine. It's
And
real
so,
as shit.
From there, I turned into and go, okay, I think I know what they're saying. And then how do I implement that? And then figure out how to implement that into training. And then it works. Nerd, bro. I fucking love this shit. This is unbelievable. I mean, to be able to read a research paper and look.
Well, think about even before you just the research, right? I had to learn how to read a research freaking paper. Abstract this, abstract that. This fucking control group. And I'm like, I don't understand, like, and the words just look like fucking Chinese. And I'm going, how do I glean the information from this research report?
Go to summary.
That's
That's
summary is fucking 27 pages into this, and I'm going, I don't know what this means. Any of this means.
Well,
But when you deliver the same exact scientific fucking information in real time, like in your face, that is literally what conveys. It doesn't convey any other way, in my mind, to first responders or alpha people. That's how I receive information.
Yeah.
And it has to be from, I'm not going to take it from somebody that's, well, I'm not going to say the name, but we talked about it earlier, right? You're going to fucking state your credibility when you don't have it.
right.
You can't, with 2 years on, sit there and say, I've seen everything you've seen. You've lost every ounce of credibility to me. I'm not even going to look at you again. But you represent all of that. And that's why it's powerful for me.
But the magic though of all this, sorry,
You're good.
I'm
cutting
the host off. He's getting irritated with it.
No, I was gonna do some self-deprecating humor before I walk out of this room, and my head as big as I'm talking.
No, sleep anyway. So
I'll spread it around here. The magic of this and this, I mean, you know, everybody that's involved, not just the people here, but the magic is, yes, Eric is everything that Tuna just slobbered all over him. Tuna brings a freaking amazing passion and humor and connection with these people. I mean, just watching, I love following him around in a building because it's almost like he's watching his son maneuver through this building. I mean, and that is the highest compliment I can give.
let me tell you something. He's been like that since I've known him.
Yeah, but that's what he gives. That's what he gives the students. Eric gives his thing to the students. You know, Patchers is coming into his own with his style and what he's bringing. He was pouting like a little kid yesterday because he wasn't going to go on that run. It's like, dude, I'm glad he didn't have to fight me over it because I just handed it to him. But that's the thing is Dave's got his thing that none of us are going to be able to replicate. We don't want to replicate, but that's his thing. Rick's got his thing. Chris is his first time this year, but you could already tell that's his piece. Mm-hmm. And that is the magic of all this.
He wouldn't have been able to do what he did if he didn't feel comfortable with the rest of everybody.
Absolutely.
He allowed me to be vulnerable.
Yeah.
And I had never told that story to anybody.
Right.
Definitely, and not in a group setting.
So
And we
what-
could tell that it was not
raw.
easy for you.
Right.
I mean, it was something you had.
Were we getting Mexican when the fucking good shit broke out or what?
And so, no, this is just so what everybody's referring to as far as like with the being vulnerable and being raw is the introductions that Rick and Dave have developed is that you share your name, age, how many years you've been on the fire department, a bad day.
Good day, bad day.
And so that's where you get vulnerable is like sharing the bad day. We have all of a sudden you have a group of alpha male strong men that have been told to button it up for their entire
I
careers
call it my dirty secret.
and most of them their entire life, right? Like,
That's no intention of.
right?
I thought about what I was going to say, something much simpler.
Right, but the important part of that is that the cadre goes first, and so we share our vulnerability first to build and engage that trust. And then, honestly, just as equally important is that we end on the good day. And so it's actually a brilliant introduction. So whoever created that, well done.
And
Because
now we have a new way of defining it. Thank you to our friend from Mobile, Alabama. Y'all have shit.
it's the
going on?
it's the shit. It's the shit sharing.
I can't. Shit.
Shit.
S-H-I.
Let's be here.
Lots of vowels. In
There's
Lots of vowels.
listen, Lebanon, Tennessee. They like so most of the world spells shit shit. Like that's how they spell shit. Lebanon, Tennessee. This is I think how he spelled it, right? SHEEEITTT or so. And so it ends up being like shit. Like it's fucking brilliant. Like let's be real. Yeah.
It made everyone laugh. Just recognizing, yes, we all have vulnerabilities. Yes, you summed it up in one hilarious word, one with a terrible accent.
No, brilliant.
Wait,
Brilliant.
we can argue who's got a terrible accent. So we've got Oklahoma, we got Midwest, we have Tennessee shit, and we got Canada. I mean, we can figure out who's got the.
Canadians always get fucked with first.
Well, I'm just saying. So it's interesting that the Canadian pulled out that he's got a terrible accent. Just say. Yeah, just say.
That was noted.
Let's just go on the roof, okay?
So
Agree to disagree.
there's also a moment there where I think that he sets the tone for the intensity.
Yeah.
Right. Bad day. Chief stifled me again on training. Bad day. No. He fucking literally illustrates the darkest, deepest fucking where he was the don't even you like literally eviscerate your soul. And that sets the level like, okay, so there's no putting around here. If I commit to you, you commit to me. And I think that intensity, that story, you could pick any fucking bad day. We heard some other bad days because people aren't ready to fucking share. But when you bare your soul, man, it makes me want to fucking give you mine. And if you don't do that, I think that's what for me is so profound is when you start off and it is not some chicken shit story. It is as personal as you can get. You could have picked a bad, listen, you can say back all day, right? But it's your personal life. Every motherfucking fireman has a bad call. We can all relate to that shit. You don't choose to take that out there. You go deep and you bring it from and that's why everybody goes, I have your soul. This guy's willing to bear that to me? Why how does he owe me anything? That sets the intensity for that is, and I don't know how to describe it.
Let me elaborate further on that. So that extends into our cadre. We've had some new instructors this year. I had one confide in me earlier that he felt imposter syndrome because he felt his bad day wasn't bad enough.
Actually, that's really important to bring up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I want to touch on
And so he actually revealed a harder one that I don't think he was going to talk about, but he felt that comfortable and that message needed to be conveyed. And so I thought that made me want to say that.
And I actually want to pull that back just a touch because there's a lot of people on speaking tours in fire service and public safety. And this is personal opinion, so you can either choose to disagree with me or agree with me. I don't really give a fuck. It's my opinion. So you have the choice to agree or disagree. We had that conversation earlier too. I don't ever want to feel or engage in what we call trauma performance or trauma Olympics, trauma competition. Because listen, there are men and women out there who've never had the quote unquote bad call. And so they hear all these bad stories and like, well, shit, my trauma or my story isn't bad enough. Why am I feeling this way?
Right.
I haven't had it as bad as that person. And that's actually a really dangerous position because it's all so uniquely individual.
Yeah.
And so if we're not acknowledging that everybody's stories are uniquely unique, then that's a problem. And so I don't want people to be like, oh, fuck, my bad story is not bad enough, but I still experience all the shit they're talking about. What's wrong with me?
Your
Like,
worst day is
that
your worst
is-
day, right?
that is not, it's your worst day.
Your worst day.
Your worst day.
No.
Not your bad day.
It's a bad day. I'm not asking for your
Yeah,
worst
no,
day.
no.
Okay,
I'm not asking for your
but
best
bad
day.
is
No.
subjective, right? So
But
the worst thing you
No,
ever experienced is the worst thing.
it's a bad day, not your worst. So this is important.
it is.
Because it's very important
Yes.
because some people may not feel like sharing their worst fucking day.
Right.
And that's not what we're trying to convey. The whole purpose for this is to create a unity, because I know where it's going. It's going to be going to them next. And it's to create a unity and that bond and a trust between them and us as instructors.
Correct.
But what we're leaving out is that following that is the bad day. So beneath that, all that research, we're experiencing the sympathetic and then the parasympathetic. So we're trying to balance out that teeter-totter.
Yep.
So the class starts, the information starts, the research is already beginning before they even hear the first lecture.
And what we actually find fascinating, or I find fascinating, and I hope I'm not the only one that picks up on this, is there's a lot of emotions during the bad day part. However, because we've primed the pump, there's actually arguably sometimes more emotion on the good day.
Sometimes the
And actually,
The second that somebody
honestly-
talks about their child, look out at the group.
but
It is instantaneous.
it's not by accident. But it's
No,
not
of
by
course not.
accident, folks. And this is
Powerful,
this is
man.
where
I
like the
ball
science,
my eyes out when you're talking about your kid, brother.
and this is where the science comes into it, though,
Swear to God.
because whether we like it or not, good and bad days are actually two sides of the exact same coin.
You said that before. Yeah, you're right.
They're two sides of the exact same coin. So we prime the pump with the bad day.
Yeah.
But then the emotions and the same feelings and everything else actually is manifesting itself out on the good day notion. And so when we start talking about stress, like that's what we're actually all training about, is how to handle and deal with stress so that we can perform optimally. Is that not what the whole crux of what you guys are developing high performance is? That's what yoga for first responders is about. That's why we are so synergistic, is that whether it's good stress or bad stress, it's still just stress. It's all about perspective and how you look at it and how you handle it and how you deal with it. And so if we can train you how to deal with stress, it doesn't matter whether it's the good stress or the bad stress of life. You are now prepared to handle the next time stress happens in your life. Like, that's what we're doing through all of this training. And so it's not by accident.
Eric, can I say something? Because I have to go because I'm being a shitty fucking husband, man. So I just envision, you got a 5-gallon bucket, right? And this is not one drop. This is drops coming from the ceiling of a cavern, right? Okay. So just this subject we touched on, right? Trauma is not measurable, right? It's not quantifiable in the sense that yours is worse than mine, right? I can give you probably one of the most visceral moments of my life where I'm
Absolutely.
standing at the center of excellence, and it is therapy day. And this is the day at the end, the culmination. You're going to read this letter that is basically what you came here to fucking bury. And you're going to ball it up and throw it in the fire, right? There's literally 50 guys sitting around. Guys can't even get through this shit. I have mine prepared. And the first guy goes. And he talks about being anally raped by his cousin, digging underground tunnels as a foster child. And I'm sitting there going, what the fuck are you doing? How in the world? It literally immediately made me feel like, I'm like, why am I here? What did this guy go through? What? Oh, I'm still fucked up because my mom died? Yeah, moms die, bro. But having this moment right there These guys get to experience that. They get to hear these stories, and they are arguably, without a doubt, going to measure what they're going to say. And they're going to measure their trauma with their trauma. When I talk about these drops, this is not one drop going out and resonating with people. This is every time we talk, it's like there's just another thing that could just literally go out for miles just on that one conversation. I don't have that with any other group of people in the world. I can get existential freaking knowledge from you guys that I wouldn't allow myself to even think about in other groups. So I got to go be a good husband. Miss my fucking anniversary. Miss my freaking Mother's Day. I'm sitting here. I'm not tired, dude. I'm sitting here doing some self-loathing because I should be on the fucking road going over my fucking.
Get the hell out of here.
So,
Made it.
one last time. I love you guys more than you'll ever fucking know, and you enrich my life in a way that I know that I say I'm a wordsmith. No way to articulate it. I think I've cried fucking all my tears out this weekend, so I'm not going to get into it right now. But at the end of the day, no way to tell you guys how much you mean to me. And thank you again for allowing me to do this.
Listen, it's my pleasure. I do want to hit on something that you reminded me of. On the job when we start, I think early on, it's easy to suppress the emotions. And we tell people that. You need to put your fucking emotions aside and do the goddamn job. If you can't do that, Publix is hiring. Okay? Get the fuck out of the way. Because it's important, right?
Right.
People's lives hang in the balance. You got to put your shit aside. Can't be crying, going sniveling, and being. You got to do your job. It's fucking hard, dirty work, Somehow, we forget that it's okay to allow those emotions to come out. And we suppress and suppress and suppress, and we drink and we screw freaking weird people and things and lose relationships and divorces and all kinds, and maybe even your job and ultimately your life. And so as you start to go through this journey with all the neuroscience behind it that you're incorporating in your life, the natural emotional state that you're in and the things you've been suppressing begin to come out.
Yeah.
And that's a healthy thing. That's a sign of a healthy person. Sometimes when the memory, I read a lot of research. You think about this. I read a lot of research of people that say when you have a memory and it still evokes an emotion, that there's something wrong. I don't think so. I think that sadness touches you deep. I think that joy touches you deep. I think they both touch you deep. And that memory should elicit that. That's what being human is about. I went long enough without expressing my emotions.
Yeah, in fact, I would argue that a healthy, regulated nervous system
There you go.
allows you to feel the emotions, aka sadness and joys, with those memories. And you can feel that emotion, you can feel that spike, and you can come back down to homeostasis after feeling that. That, I would argue, is a healthy nervous system, not one that pushes those away or doesn't feel the emotions associated with those thoughts and memories. That's my personal belief. Army, take us home, bro.
Close this out, baby.
Just, each time we do this and get around each other, it's completely transformative and more open. I said, I've taught several classes with you, and I just revealed to you, about 2 or 3 weeks ago, my worst state. I finally conveyed it to these guys.
I appreciate that, man.
Yeah.
I appreciate that you felt comfortable enough to share that with me.
And yeah, that's real. I guess that's true. What I call a dirty secret. I don't like that or what I perceive to be a fallacy or whatever with me and stuff. And that's where the strength came, was just revealing that to you.
Yeah. How do you? So I'm curious, because that was so raw, and I don't want to tease this thread too much because of how raw it is. But how did you feel before, like holding that in, versus now that it's out? Like, that's a big deal, and that had to have an impact on you.
It's like having to tell Dad you broke a window or whatever, and something real bad's coming. And how do I convey this? And it's gonna be just a horrible situation. That was the perceived way.
That was the perception of what's going to happen.
Yeah, like this is just gonna be bad. They're gonna think less of me. I'm supposed to be Army. This whole persona or whatever, and that'll just tear me down. But what it actually did was build me up. Hey, holy shit. It felt better.
Right.
I mean, Jeremy Sanders, he's like, feel a little lighter. I'm like, oh my God. Like, I'm so glad I got to say that to you guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Because oftentimes those feelings, those thoughts, those things that we hold on to, there's a really really interesting word. Like if we talk about wordsmithing, this is a really, really powerful and interesting word. And so those thoughts, those feelings, they're ballast in our lives. Ballast. And so you think about, there's a perfect imagination or a perfect analogy for this. So you think of a hot air balloon. They have literal sandbags of ballast weighing them down. And that's what those thoughts, that's what those feelings, that's what those emotions that we're harboring inside ourselves are. It's ballast. And so when you shared that and you allowed that to go publicly in our very, very safe container, it's just like cutting the ballast off the hot air balloon. All of a sudden you cut that weight off and now you can soar. Yeah. Like without getting too fucking corny or anything else.
Yeah.
But it's a perfect analogy that if you allow that out, you're literally cutting that sandbag of ballast, of emotion, of that experience off. And now you can rise higher than you did before. Yeah. And so that's, I think of that stuff rather than like anchors that sink us down. I think of it as ballast, that if we can allow ourselves to become free of it, we can actually go higher up then.
Yeah, like I've had shift captains, back in the early career, like you keep that shit to yourself like a man, all that kind of stuff. So in the military, some kind of things. So all of a sudden here, it's like, you can talk about it.
Right.
Actually, you will be stronger.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
And then you do it, you're like, oh yeah.
Yeah. Rick, any final thoughts of wisdom? Like,
Yeah.
I share all the time, so I want you to.
I don't know how to articulate this, or I know how to articulate it. I don't know if it will be 100% accurate.
That's cool.
But earlier in the conversation, we were talking about, I can't remember the word used, but what you were describing was meekness.
Meekness.
Yes.
Okay.
And so meek has been associated with weak.
Right.
Couldn't be further from the truth.
Mm.
Because meek, the word originates back from, I believe, Spartan, Egyptian, something back in the day. Their horses, which was strength or power under control.
Wow.
And so I think that we've been lied to for long enough.
Yeah.
I just saw tuna back up and go down the street and then turn around and go the other.
I mean, that is the epitome of tuna, though. Like that is the epitome.
That was my thing.
No, meekness. And how do you like? That's profound. That meekness actually equates to the powerful strength of.
And that's what I wanted to. I wanted to use that analogy, but I didn't have it down. That came from a sermon my pastor did. Just the vehicle, because we had that group of cadets. We had a group of cadets that was on our training site, and we were getting ready to start up doing evolutions, and they were in the building, and we have to have total darkness, and they're going in. So that's why I chose those cadets as the message. And now they're just learning. They're kids, And so I saw what was going on. I saw it as an opportunity. And I went over there and shared some stuff with them and whatever and integrated. And then before we left, I walked over there because they were a little hesitant. They were like, what are you guys talking about? This is our training ground, And once they started to see these guys go to us put them through the pace, they were like looking at us like and it wasn't lost on me. I caught that moment. I saw them looking and they were like, holy shit, that's what I want to do.
Correct.
And I think every child has that. You have that. You never know who the impact is on. And so now these students, I don't think recognize it because they're too busy swinging a freaking sledgehammer and an axe to beat on a tire until the instructor gets tired of watching them.
Right.
And then we go hook up the air and go inside, right? And do some actual fireman shit. And so that's why I wanted, when I went over and asked them about their class ethos, and they said,
343.
Always remember.
Yeah.
Or does it never forget?
Yeah, 343, never forget.
Never forget. No.
And these are a bunch of high school kids who were not even
I had to
alive.
do it 3 times. And then I said, now look over there. all you guys over there, all the guys that were over there doing breathing and whatever, the instructors that were over there all were looking at them like, what was that? I said, now they're looking at you.
Yep.
I saw them looking.
I remember that moment profoundly because I did look over at them like the same way that.
That's what the students didn't understand when I explained
Right.
it. You never know what your actions, how they're going to impact people.
Right.
You never know.
Awesome.
You
Because-
never know how it's going to impact people. I said, you may have changed some child's life
Yep.
and the direction of his life, maybe broken home, ugly things, maybe great home, just on a bad path. Who the fuck knows? Who the fuck knows? Maybe he's a good kid and he's going to be a great kid.
Right.
Is that not what
And that's-
everything is about right
that's
there? I mean,
That's
that's why we are making ourselves better. That's why we're doing these things, because you never know.
That's right.
And the only way,
Bring it with you because you got a knife in your hand.
yes, exactly.
Yeah.
The only
It's
way
about to
that
get
we
real.
know the amount of people that we could possibly impact is if we don't share anything, then it's zero. But beyond that, it's exponential, just on and on and on.
JS dropping the words of
Yeah.
wisdom. So you didn't even know we were doing our final round here. Dave, last words of wisdom for this episode. We might have to make like from the field a regular episode here. This is pretty
Well,
good.
that'd be cool.
Yeah.
So I feel like I've missed stuff.
Well, my take on it is we've all reached a point in our life where you've put energy into others, yourself, your career, your family. And so essentially we're invested. And at a certain point, you can't just rest on your laurels. And when you look around and say, okay, what's my return on my investment? People in emergency services, the people I've met, say, well, I'm not going to sit back and just wait to get my payoffs with my house or my kids or, a rank at the fire department. The ones that are really driven say, I'm going to continue investing in myself. So my belief is that it's a cycle. And we got to see that this week. I get to see it with follow-ups. People drop us emails, references on Facebook page. We'll be putting out a communication to the participants from this week and asking them to send us a video message of if they had any particular opportunity to apply it. And I just that sense of growth and reinvestment is I'm profoundly touched by, and it kind of keeps me on target.
Yeah, let's be honest, these fill up our cups.
Yes.
Like that's what I always find out when I teach this class or teach at our instructor schools. Like sometimes we can get so in the weeds of our own lives and pushing the mission forward that even we need moments of like, oh yeah, we are making a difference in the world. And so it's these small micro moments that allow us to have that immediate reinforcement. Like this is an important mission.
This moment here, we're doing right now.
Final thoughts by Chris.
Like right, what we're doing right now is very impactful. Taking everything that happened and kind of tearing it all out and having discussions. That this is, having this podcast is important.
Yeah.
As if not, as much important as what we're doing is relaying what we learned, taking what we learned, digesting it, and then, spreading the knowledge. Keep pushing forward. Keep educating. Keep learning. And keep doing better.
Yeah. And so part of this is humor, and so I'm going to end this on a funny note because no, you know this. So during Tuna's involved in the story though. So during one of the drills, so at one point in the afternoon, if you look at the Instagram story, we're in this like phase where we're just grinding them to get them tired. Like that's the whole point of it. It's not like it's not exercise. The point is to get them to a point of fatigue so that when the sun starts to set, shit starts to get real for these guys. And so Tuna and I are running a station where we're having them run gassers on the stairs. So if you don't know what that is, they run to the first floor, down, second floor, down, third floor, down, fourth floor, down. And then after they get done with the gassers, we put them in some kind of static hold position. So one of the hold positions, Tuna, we're putting them in a high plank. They hold them down in low plank for a while, and then we put them back up into high plank. And I make sure to coach them through their 3-part breath because I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't put breath work into it and mindset training shit into it and that kind of stuff. And so we're holding high plank forever. And
Tuna and I didn't communicate which one of us was going to end the drill. And so I'm like,
No, you go.
but we can't do that talk in the front of the students. And so, because we're in the middle of the fucking drill, we're in the middle of high plank at this point, or low plank, and all of the planks. And so I am just continuing to coach breath work, expecting Tuna to break these guys out. And I was like, man, this guy is a fucking savage. Like, he's holding these guys like way beyond what they're supposed to be held at this point. And so I look over, like, Tuna and I make eye contact, and he like shakes his head no. And I took that as a signal of keep going, I'm not done yet. But that was actually, he was done, like, and trying to signal to me that it was time to stop the drill. And so I keep going, like, we just keep going with this at this point. And so I mean, everybody is shaking. They're starting to mock. I mean, this is getting real. It's fucking real. They're like, the blood, like, sweat is hitting the ground. And I'm like looking at Tuna like, holy shit, bro. Like, he's like in it still. And I look over at him, and all of a sudden I notice that a couple of his fingers are literally tapping on the ground, like tapping out. And I look at him, like, get the stairs, boys. And so they go running. And I was like, dude. I was like, you're a fucking savage. He looked at me. He's like, I thought you were stopping the drill. I said, I thought you were stopping the drill. And so those boys just got held in high plank for like 6 minutes. Like it was a long time. As we were
That
just
right there is a tuna tag.
And that, my friends, is from the field. Awesome.
Hey, before we go, I want to remind you that training your mental and physical health is incredibly important, especially for those working in high-stress jobs like first responders.
And if you're interested in learning more about yoga for first responders, visit yogaforfirstresponders.org for our on-demand training app, online course platform, in-person training, and more.
Like this podcast, subscribe, and give us a great review. We are so happy to have you part of the YFFR mission.